Yo, 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 what is up, guys? It's Cone back here again tonight with another episode of After the Buzzer. We had some good games today. There were definitely some blowouts, but there were a couple good games, particularly Hawks Knicks, which has been kind of carrying the Eastern Conference in terms of playoff series. Every other series is not very close at all. We'll get to Celtics Nets at the end of the video. That's the series I most or least want to talk about at this point. It's just blowouts at this point. Just waiting for the Nets to finish off the Celtics in 5 games. But Hawks Knicks going well, and then Lakers Suns, which has also been very entertaining. We'll get to those series in a second, but I do want to start off with talking about Dallas and Los Angeles. If you've watched any of these videos, you know that this is the series that I've been most looking forward to, or the one that I most look forward to the games of, just because they've been really competitive and close. And then tonight, it was the exact opposite. The Los Angeles Clippers blew the Mavericks out tonight. 25-point win for the Los Angeles Clippers, 106-81. I guess I'll kind of start with the Maverick side of the ball, and then I'm going to talk a lot about the Clippers. But on the Maverick side of the ball, Luka does not look healthy. I think Luka's, whatever is going on with his shoulder, his neck, this area, it's bothering him a lot, because you can really see the strain on him when he puts up shots, when he's sitting on the bench. He's always doing things to try and loosen it. I think there was a realistic chance he didn't play in this game today. The only reason he played is because he's Luka, and if he doesn't play, they lose this game 100% guaranteed. So he was going to come out and play, but I think it's really bothering him, not only when he shoots jumpers, but at the free throw line in particular. Luka's free throw shooting has been god awful in this series. And I mean, he's never been a great free throw shooter over his only 3-year career, but he's never been this bad. He's shooting far under 50% from the free throw line in this series. At this point, I honestly think he'd have better success if he shot step back threes for all of his free throws. I don't know if there are any rules stopping that. I'm sure there's some rules, but I feel like they should let him do it because it would be kind of cool. But I don't really think they're going to let him do that. So for right now, he's stuck with those lame old normal free throws that he's just not hitting. It's kind of a LeBron situation where you have this great player. It's just sometimes they can't hit their free throws. And it's really hurting the Mavericks because Luka gets a lot of and ones. He gets a lot of tough buckets. He gets a lot of calls that go his way because he does seek out a lot of contact. And when he's not able to convert those opportunities, which are just givens for him, it makes getting offense a lot more difficult for this Mavericks team. You need Luka to be able to convert on those opportunities, because it's not often that you're going to be able to get easy buckets against a team like the Clippers that have so many great defenders, so many guys that can switch on to you, a lot of versatile guys. It's not easy buckets most of the time. And so you've got to be able to convert when you do get those easy opportunities at the free throw line. And between Luka and a lot of this roster, they're just not hitting their free throws when they need to, and they need to hit them all the time to have a chance in this series. They took the first 2 games because they were nailing shots, but when those shots stop falling, you've got to be able to get to the free throw line and convert opportunities, and they just haven't done that. That's been one of the biggest reasons why they've started to fall off in these last 2 games. In addition to, they just got destroyed on the boards tonight. And that's kind of shocking because the Clippers, Tyronn Lue, credit to him, I'm going to talk about him in a second. He's made some great adjustments after the first 2 games. I said Tyronn Lue had yet to make an adjustment, and he hadn't. He didn't make any adjustments through the first 2 games of the series, and I was like, what is going on? And then these last 2 games, he's made great adjustments. We'll talk about all those in a second, but one of the ones he made tonight, particularly, was taking Zubac out of the starting lineup, and they started Reggie Jackson, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Marcus Morris, and Nicholas Batum. That was their starting 5, and it worked beautifully. The Clippers all series have been getting off to awful starts, and they started off a little rough. They were down 4-0 to start the game, which isn't optimal. But Kawhi got going quickly. Batum had some great plays on defense. He had a couple of steals. I think he had a block too. He contested a shot here and there. He had some great plays. Kawhi Leonard got a couple of blocks. Kawhi got going. Paul George got going. Batum had some good defensive plays. Kristaps did get a couple of easy buckets, but this lineup made it so easy for them to switch on to guys. And with the tallest player in this Mavericks lineup being Kristaps, who doesn't really use his size, it worked really well. They were able to switch on everything. It made them a lot more versatile, and it gave them a better opportunity to stop Luka Doncic. It gave them a better opportunity to get out there on those 3-point shooters. And that's what they did. They ran those guys off the 3-point line. They made them take tough looks from 3, and they just weren't hitting tonight. That's a big problem for the Mavericks. All series, they've been getting easy 3-point looks, especially for those first 2 games. Less so last game, but for those first 2 games, they were getting really good looks at the 3-point line, and they were converting them because they're great shooters. This team is an incredible team of shooters. They're a great offensive squad, but if their shots stop falling, they can't keep up with the Clippers in getting stops. They just can't. They don't have the defensive personnel to match up. And like I said, I don't think Luka's healthy. Luka does not look healthy out there. And I know it's the playoffs. I know guys are never fully healthy at this point in the season, but they need him to be at least what he was to start the series if they want a shot at winning this. If Luka's injury is really bad and is really this lingering, I think the Mavericks are done. Because you need Luka to carry your team the way that he did to start this series if you're going to want to take out this Clippers team. Because the Clippers are now playing like contenders. We have seen it very rarely in this Clippers run. Last season, I looked at the Clippers and I said, this team doesn't feel like a contending team to me. I didn't know what it was. I still don't really know, but they never felt like serious contenders to me. And then they went out and lost it. They gave up that 3-1 series lead to the Nuggets, losing in 7 games, and I was like, oh, okay, that was it. They can't close things out. They couldn't close out when they got a lead. They couldn't keep things together. They kind of let their emotions get the best of them. They acted like they had won something before winning something. And now, coming into this season, throughout the season, I was like, oh, this Clippers team, they feel more like contenders to me. This feels like a contending team that I am watching play basketball. And so I made a video a couple months ago saying that people were sleeping on the Clippers and that the Clippers were a contender, that people need to wake up, that I thought Paul George, I tweeted this. So I'm glad Paul George is playing well because the receipts are there on my Twitter account if he stops playing well. But Pandemic P has quickly went to Vaccine P, Pfizer P, whatever you want to call him. Shout out to Basketball Rookie for that Vaccine P nickname. But he's turned it around completely. I said he was going to have a great playoff run. I said it felt like Paul George was gearing up for a good playoff run. And he has been. He's been great. That first game, he kind of was here and there. But since that point, he's continued to get better. This game, he didn't quite have the numbers, but it was just because he didn't really need to put up that many shots. He didn't need to do that much. He had 29 and 3. He played good defense. He hit shots when Kawhi Leonard wasn't in the game. He made the Mavericks pay. He did what he had to do. And Kawhi Leonard, also to his credit, played great tonight, 29, 10, and 3. Those two guys, they played great basketball. If they can put up around 30 and 20, or if they can combine for about 50 points, they would probably want a little bit more in typical games. But like I said, those guys didn't need to put up a lot of shots because this was a blowout for most of the game. So there really wasn't that much necessary from them. But in typical games, they probably want more than 50 points. But if they can put up about 50 points as a duo in a game, that's pretty solid. And they just got to stay consistent with it. They've got to be able to close out these games. And so far, we haven't seen them do too much in clutch time. They have been, but they lost those first 2 games that were in clutch time. They did well last game, and then this game was kind of a blowout. So we have yet to see what it looks like when their backs are fully against the wall. But I think we'll get an opportunity to see that in these coming games. I wouldn't be surprised if this series goes to 7, just because these two teams seem to be evenly matched so far. However, with the way the Clippers have really turned things around, it's kind of looking like at this point it could be a 6-game series, especially if, like I said, Luka's not healthy. And in combination with Luka not being healthy, the Mavericks kind of regressing to the mean because they shot the lights out, they shot the absolute skin off the ball in those first couple games. They're now kind of regressing to the mean. They're not shooting as well. They're kind of falling back down to earth. And in combination with that and the way that Tyronn Lue has adjusted, it's looking bad for the Mavericks. Tyronn Lue, give him his credit, has made great adjustments in these 3rd and 4th games of the series. I already talked about the way that he changed the starting lineup going into this game, but in game 3 and game 4, he's just done a better job of... He's just played different guys. He's changed around his rotations, specifically putting Reggie Jackson in starting. He did that last game, and it worked out beautifully. Reggie Jackson's been a really nice offensive punch for them at times. He's played solid defense. He's just doing better than Patrick Beverley was doing. Patrick Beverley, who started for them for most of this season when he was healthy, played 5 minutes tonight. And last game, I think he played around 3, 4, 5 minutes too. Terrence Mann's getting more run, given he hasn't done that much in terms of scoring the ball, but he's played some really good defense. Rondo's played well. I think starting Batum was brilliant tonight. The Mavericks tried to counteract that by putting in Boban, and he had some fun moments, but he just couldn't keep up with how quick this Clippers lineup was, especially when they put in Zubac. It didn't really even matter that they had Boban in at that point. Tyronn Lue's just doing a great job. And I don't know how good of a coach he is yet because this is still just the first round, and they did really, really struggle to start off this series. Plus, the series isn't over. Even though the Clippers seem to have kind of regained composure, there is still plenty of opportunity for the Mavericks to win this series. They just need Luka to turn it around. They need the shooters to hit shots, and Rick Carlisle has to come back with some adjustment. But Tyronn Lue's doing a good job in these last couple games. That's what I can say confidently for right now. I know a lot of guys think he's a great offensive coach, and I have seen some good offensive explosions from the Clippers at some points in this season. It's just been kind of here and there whether or not their defense plays up to the level that I expect it to. But tonight, the Clippers look like contenders, and I think they still are. I think they are a contending team. Assuming they get out of this first round, they're going to give either the Jazz or the Grizzlies, probably the Jazz. I would be surprised if it was the Grizzlies. They're going to give the Jazz a really hard time because the Jazz just kind of struggle to stop some of those like high-profile scorers sometimes. They've got Rudy Gobert, who should do a great job at deterring at the rim. But in terms of wing defense, there's not really that many players on their roster that can keep up with a Paul George and a Kawhi Leonard. That's a series I would be really interested to see. Once again, neither of those series, the Jazz, Grizzlies, or this series, are quite over yet. But right now, with the way it's going, I wouldn't be surprised if that is our matchup. But I'm not going to talk about that too much. I'm going to kind of chill. I'll let these series figure out, because if I've learned anything, especially from like the Bucks Heat series, I have no idea what's going to happen, because when I try and make predictions, they're always just wrong. So I'm not going to predict anything. Overall, the Clippers are just playing like contenders. They're playing the way that I saw them play in the regular season, which has been their problem the last season and to start this postseason, the first 2 games. They just never quite look like the player they were in the regular, or the team they were in the regular season, excuse me. They always just kind of felt off. And if they're able to keep this up, this game was probably the best showing I've seen from them in their entire run, maybe as a team. So we'll see if it keeps going. Credit to them. Credit to Tyronn Lue. Credit to Paul George, who's having a great playoff so far to start it off. It's only been 4 games, but he's really excelling, and I'm happy to see him excel. I like when players who kind of get trashed a lot succeed, because Twitter gets real quiet real quick. So shout out to the Clippers for that win. Now I'm going to talk about Hawks-Knicks. This is kind of a series that I've pushed kind of to the back burner a little bit, mainly because they're kind of more low-scoring games, and I don't have a lot to say about either of these teams at times, but I do want to talk about why the Knicks are getting destroyed in this series a lot of the time. Atlanta took a 3-1 series lead, and I think this series might end in 5 games. The Knicks just have no one that can score. Julius Randle had his best performance of the playoffs so far with 23, 10, and 7, given it was a very inefficient 23 points, and it was in a blowout, so it really didn't matter too much, but it seems like he's kind of finding more of a rhythm. This team just really needs a playmaker and like someone who can score the ball. If they could pick up like a Lonzo Ball in the offseason, I think he'd be perfect for this team. They need someone that can be a consistent threat to score the basketball as well as get shots for other guys. Julius Randle can only create so many shots for other people. It's tough for him to create shots for himself with the way that they've been D'ing him up. And for a Hawks team that, including me, thought was going to be pretty poor defensively this season, the Hawks have really turned it up on that end. And overall, I just want to give the Hawks a shout out for how good of a job they've done building this roster around Trae Young. I made a tweet about this, and I immediately knew when I made that tweet I was going to talk about this in this video. This roster is just perfect to fit around Trae Young. We'll start with Trae Young himself. He's been electric. Trae Young's just built for the playoffs. He's just one of those guys that seems to step it up when the playoffs roll around. Once again, I know it's only the first series he's ever played in, but the way that he's performing, his composure, his trash talk too, he's got it all. Trae Young has it figured out already in his first playoff series. Bogdanović was a steal of a pickup. Such a good player, such a good complementary piece to Trae Young. He hits tough shots. He has been surprisingly good at playmaking in this series too, having 6 assists tonight especially. He's done a good job. He's grabbed some boards. He got 8 boards tonight. Just an all-around great player, a great second option next to Trae Young. Clint Capella, steal, getting him from the Rockets. He's the exact type of center that Trae Young needs. Someone that can roll to the rim, grab lobs, and that Trae Young can dive to the rim towards, and he can dish him the ball at the exact last second when his defender comes over to help and stop Trae Young from getting to the rim so that Clint Capella can throw down a dunk. There were like 5 occasions today that it felt like all of Clint Capella's buckets were off a Trae Young drive to the basket and a quick behind the back or a quick shovel pass into him inside when his defender got a little too far off of him. That's exactly the center that Trae Young needs. Trae Young, as a guy that attacks the rim, likes to play on the outside too, this is a perfect center for him. And Clint Capella got so many tough rebounds, 15 rebounds. The Knicks missed Mitchell Robinson, and not only that, but they just need someone who has the size of a Clint Capella to stand a chance in this series, and they really don't have anyone like that. DeAndre Hunter has done an incredible job guarding Julius Randle. I think Randle, if I saw the stat correctly, is like 3 of 11 when DeAndre Hunter is his defender when he takes a shot, given Julius Randle as a whole has struggled over the entire course of the series, but DeAndre Hunter is doing an incredible job. Shout the UVA legend. I'm a UVA fan if you did not know. So shout UVA legend DeAndre Hunter, national champion of 2019. But he's done an incredible job. A great 3-and-D player. He didn't score very much tonight. He only had 5. but that's what he does. He hits threes, he plays great defense, and that's the exact type of player you want next to a Trae Young and Bogdanovich backcourt. John Collins, he's kind of the question mark for this team in my eyes. I think he's a great player, and I think he fits really well in this roster. It's just how much do you want to pay him if you're the Atlanta Hawks, if you're Travis Schlenk, I believe is the way his name is pronounced. I probably just butchered that, but if you are the Hawks front office, how much do you want to pay John Collins? If he demands $30 million a year, are you willing to give him that? He had 22 and 8 tonight. He's been a really good player for this team his whole tenure here. He's a great compliment to Trae Young, another high flyer, but he can stretch the floor. It feels like the Knicks have not guarded John Collins once on the outside this entire series. I swear John Collins gets an open three almost every possession. And I don't know what it is. I don't know why they're not guarding him. I don't know if they're just defensive rotations. Say, okay, I guess we'll give John Collins the corner. Because I swear he shoots a corner three every single time they go down the floor, and he nails it every single time. Gallo with 21. He was incredible in this game. A great veteran that they brought in. Kevin Huerter is a great piece that complements them. Lou Williams, Solomon Hill, Chris Dunn, who had some run in this game. They just have done so much great. They've just done such a great job with this Hawks roster. I wanted to give them a shout out. All these players fit very well together. They've got scoring, they've got defense, they've got guys who complement their star Trae Young's play style very well, a center that can really lock down in the paint. It's exactly what you need. And honestly, they're just far more talented than this Knicks roster is. The Knicks are outmatched. The Knicks had a great season and they played really well. They still could theoretically win this series. I would just be very shocked if they did. I think they maybe could take like a game 5 in Madison Square Garden, but part of me wants to see Trae Young close it out in Madison Square Garden to see what the reactions are of the Knicks fans. Yeah, we'll see. The Hawks are just the better team at this point. I don't think that anyone is really questioning that. They're just kind of more talented, and overall, they're more built for the playoffs, I think, at this point. Lakers-Suns. Another game that was a really good one in addition to the Hawks-Knicks game. This one was kind of a blowout from a lot of it, but it kind of got close at the end. Really, the big storyline in this game was Anthony Davis going down with a groin strain. It says he's day-to-day and that but it's very possible he won't play next game. If Anthony Davis doesn't play in this series, I think it's really tough for the Lakers to win. LeBron's incredible. There are some really good role players on that roster, but the Suns are really good. And without Anthony Davis on the floor tonight, it would be the same thing if LeBron was out and it was just AD out there. When you miss one of those two stars, it's really tough to make it happen against a super talented Suns team, especially one that's kind of finding their mojo. The Suns had a great all-around team performance tonight. 17 from Crowder, 11 from Bridges, 14 from Ayton, 17 from Booker, 18 from Chris Paul. This was the best he's looked since he had that injury. 13 from Campaign. 6 guys in double digits, with 5 from Cameron Johnson and 5 from Torrey Craig, putting up 100 points, which isn't that much, but for this playoffs, that's kind of a decent scoring game. We've seen a lot of really low scoring games in this playoffs. I think it's because the fans have come back. Guys are kind of readjusting to it, and I think they'll readjust. But yeah, there have been a lot of low scoring outings in these playoffs. Overall, though, great team win for the Suns. Like I said, this is the best Chris Paul has looked since he got hurt. I think he's kind of getting healthy. He feels like he's somewhat healthy, which is cool to see. One of my favorite players. And it's just a lot more fun when everyone is healthy in this series, which is why I'm really hoping that Anthony Davis's injury doesn't hold him out of the next game. He's been a force, and tonight he just wasn't quite the force he has been. DeAndre Ayton has really done a great job in this series of making life tough on Anthony Davis when he has the opportunity to. 14 and 7. DeAndre Ayton is proving that he was a good pick. A guy picked over Luka Doncic and Trae Young, two guys who I've talked about in this video already, actually. The 2018 draft class is stacked. I'm going to make a video about that as soon as the offseason hits. Let me know if you want to see that video. But DeAndre Ayton as the number 1 overall pick, a guy picked over the likes of a Trae Young and Luka Doncic, just as 2 examples, has gotten a lot of flack for not quite being the level of player that those two have been so far in their careers. He stepped up, and he's really proven that he's vital to this Suns team. He's part of the reason why they are the 2 seed, why they're battling the defending champions so closely. And I honestly thought going into this game, the Lakers were going to take a 3-1 lead. The Suns battled back. They took advantage of the minutes where Anthony Davis wasn't on the court, and they won the game. As for the Lakers, if Anthony Davis is out, it's really tough to win this series, like I said. LeBron's going to have to go full carry mode like he did in 2018, and it feels like that angle's still bothering him. It doesn't feel like he's being as aggressive as he could be, and I don't know if that's just because he's trying to set his teammates up, if he's trying to get other guys in rhythm, or if he's just still hurt. I don't know, but he's going to have to be more aggressive. Even if Anthony Davis does play, Coming off of that injury, he's not going to be as aggressive as he probably was earlier in the series. So LeBron's got to step up. And if I've seen LeBron play, or the way that I've seen LeBron play in the past, I think he will step up. I mean, he had 25, 12, and 6 tonight. It was a good game from him. Dennis Schroeder really struggled, 8, 4, and 3. They need better from him. Marc Gasol played a great game, 12, 8, and 3. If you've watched this channel, you know I've been pushing the Marc Gasol agenda. I've really wanted to see Marc Gasol get back out there, and it makes me happy to see that he is getting back out there. I think he's going to be vital to them in this series. The way that he spaces the floor, that way that he spreads the ball around, the way that he rebounds. His defense was incredible at the end of the game when the Lakers were making a late run to try and win this game, make the comeback. They brought to like within 5 or 6, and Marc Gasol had like 2 threes in that span and a couple great defensive plays to prevent Devin Booker from attacking the rim. He's their best center on the roster. He fits this team the best. I want to see more of him. Drummond only played 19 minutes, and we only got a few out of Montrezl Harrell in this game. 5. I don't know why it wasn't showing up on the stat sheet I have pulled up. But Marc Gasol playing 23 minutes. I think we're going to see more of him, and I think we need to. I just think he's the best option for this Lakers team, allowing Anthony Davis and LeBron to attack, as well as a guy like Dennis Schroeder. Kyle Kuzma likes to cut sometimes. Montrezl Harrell and Andre Drummond kind of just gunk up the spacing a little bit, and they don't play the defense that Marc Gasol does. So I think ultimately Marc Gasol is going to be went to more in this series, and I think that's what they need to do. Hopefully Anthony Davis is okay, but shout out to the Suns for evening up this series. Game 5 is going to be a bloodbath. I'm excited. And finally, Celtics Nets. I'm not going to talk about this very much. Jason Tatum really had a stellar first quarter, and he ended up scoring 40 points, 47 and 5. The Nets just don't have an answer for Jason Tatum one-on-one. When they throw 2-3 guys at him, sometimes they can stop him, but overall, he's just proving how good of a scorer he is, as well as kind of that main hole in the Nets roster, which is guarding those like scoring wings, those big men. Jason Tatum's not a big man, but he does play power forward for them, so, you know, you kind of get what I'm saying. They just couldn't stop him, and ultimately the reason they won is because they scored 141 points. This was a masterclass from the big three. Really just all the guys excelling in the exact roles that they've been doing all season. Kevin Durant, 42, 4, and 5, just being a monster on the offensive side of the ball. Struggled a little bit on the defensive side, but it really didn't matter. Kyrie Irving with 39 and 2 with 11 rebounds, which was kind of crazy. Shout out to Kyrie Irving. He played a great game. Like, this was one of his best games. I know he struggled last game, but Kyrie Irving's been great all season, so it was cool to see him step it back up. And then James Harden, 23 and 18. He's the guy that kind of makes this whole team click. I think on most nights, James Harden is the most important player to this roster. I've made it known that I think that, and I'm not afraid to say that again with the way that he's played. 18 assists is a career high for him in a playoff game. Kyrie and KD do the scoring. James Harden does the playmaking. Joe Harris hits some threes. Bruce Brown gets some stops and hits a couple shots. This team wins games. That's the way it works. The Celtics ultimately just really miss Jaylen Brown, the other Jay. Tatum's been great. I think he's going to be a top 10, top 5 player sooner than later. Unfortunately, he just really misses his co-star, and they're severely outmatched by the Brooklyn Nets. So, those are all the games for today. Let me know what your takeaways were from these games. Do you think the Clippers are going to win this in 6? Is this going to a 7-game series? Can the Mavericks still pull it off? Hawks, Knicks, what do you see going forward for the Knicks? Can they find a way to come back down from 3-1? Can they make this a series? Or are the Hawks just going to march on to the second round to face the 76ers? The Lakers and Suns, who do you have winning this series? Who do you have winning Game 5? And Celtics Nets, is there any chance the Celtics take another game? And what are your thoughts on the way that Jason Tatum has played in this series? Does he deserve some credit? I think he deserves a lot of credit for even stealing one game from the Brooklyn Nets without Jaylen Brown, but that's just my thought. So, that's all I have to say in this video. I appreciate you guys watching. Thank you for 4.1 thousand subscribers. You guys have been going crazy on these videos. I'm going to keep dropping these videos pretty much every single night. There might not be one tomorrow because there's only 2 games on, but if the Wizards do get eliminated, you will see a what's next video for them at least coming out. So you'll get at least one video tomorrow. So be on the lookout for that. I appreciate you guys watching this video a ton. I will see you guys later. Real one, say it back.